welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com. This time I'm going to focus on this thing, the keyboard, and specifically I'm going to run through some of the most useful Windows keyboard shortcuts. And all of these will work in any modern version of Windows. That means they'll all work in Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8.1 and Windows 10. Right, here I am in Windows 10 and I've got lots of different applications running, lots of windows open. But what if I wanted to move between those windows using the keyboard? Well, there's various ways to do that, and the first one is my favourite ever Windows keyboard shortcut, which is Alt-Tab. So if I hold down the Alt key and then just give a tap to the Tab key, you'll see this little menu comes up. I'm still holding down the Alt key. Every time I press Tab, it goes along to the next one. So I could, for example, get to Word that way. I could press down Alt and Tab again and go back to, for example, Paint, as you can see there. Another way to move between open windows is to use Alt Escape. So if I hold down Alt and then press Escape once, you'll see it goes to the next window, next window, next window, next window. Keep cycling through. That works perfectly well as well. And there's another way to move between windows, which was introduced in Windows 10. I said at the start of this video that I'd show you Windows keyboard shortcuts that work in all versions of Windows. I'm breaking that promise already. I'm in a maverick mood today. I'm going to show you what I call Sticky Alt Tab or Control Alt Tab. So if I hold down Control and Alt and press Tab, you'll see this little menu comes up like we saw before with Alt Tab. But if I release the keys, it's still there. It's sticky on the screen. And we can now work that with the arrows to move, for example, back to Word by pressing Enter to get to Word. So those are different ways of moving between applications. Now, sometimes you might want to get back to the desktop in a hurry. You can do that by holding down the Windows key and pressing D, and you'll get to the desktop. And if we do it again, we'll get back. It's a toggle to take you back and forth. I was a bit of a hurry there, wasn't I? There we are, back and forth. And finally, you might sometimes be running Windows and sometimes something will crash. How could a Windows program crash, you cry? How could that ever happen? Well, it does happen now and then. And the best way to get out of that situation is to use the Task Manager. And the quickest way to activate the Task Manager is to press Control, Shift and Escape like that. And that will bring up the Task Manager. So say Windows Paint had crashed here, we can then select Windows Paint and end the task. So there we are. There's our first 5 Windows keyboard shortcuts: Alt-Tab, Alt-Escape, Control-Alt-Tab, Windows key and D, and Control-Shift-Escape. Now, let's run through some Windows keyboard shortcuts for content manipulation. Here I am in a word processor, and if I say I want to select some text, I've got my cursor already sitting at the start of the first paragraph. If I press down the Shift key and hold it, if I use the arrows, I will select by character, one way or the other, select or deselect using the left and right arrows. Or if I want to select by line, if I press the down arrow here, I select by line, or if I press the up arrow, I deselect by line. I think many people are aware of using Shift and arrows in Windows. However, you might not be aware of using Control Shift arrows. So if I hold down the Control key and the Shift key, and I now press the left and right arrows, I will select or deselect by word rather than character. And if I use the down arrow, I will select by paragraph, and the up arrow, I will deselect by paragraph. If I want to take a copy of what I've selected, I can use the Control-C command. So if I hold down Control and press C, that's now had a copy put into the buffer in Windows. And if I move my cursor down there, I can now press Control and V for paste, and there we are, there's a copy of what we just done. If I want to cut some text out, I can do that as well. Let's just select a little bit of text here. Just maybe take that sentence, take the full stop as well. And if I press Control and X, it'll remove things entirely, still puts it in the buffer. And if I maybe go to the end of this sentence, I can press Control and V for paste again, and there it is, it's come back. If I want to select everything, I can use Control A. So if I hold down Control and press A, everything in the document or wherever else you are in Windows is selected. And if I now say I want to copy that, Control C, and we'll just paste that again, we've now got a much longer document. And it's worth pointing out that these commands I'm using work anywhere in Windows for any type of content. So for example, if I use Alt and Tab and go across to Paint, if I pressed Control A here, it would select the image I've got there in Paint. You might just be able to see that's now selected. And if I press Control and C for copy, Alt Tab back to my document, and I could press Control and V, and it would paste the image into the document. There we are, a lovely image of a Raspberry Pi. Let's just sort out our formatting in my document there. How could we have a non-lovely image of a Raspberry Pi? Now, of course, sometimes in Windows you might decide you didn't want to do something, you wanted to undo something. You can do that easily with the keyboard using the Control key, hold down Control and press Z, and we'll undo twice there to get rid of what we did putting in the Raspberry Pi. Or you might sometimes think, no, I don't want to undo things really. You can redo with the keyboard as well, hold down Control and press Y. Couple of redos, there we are back to where we were. Finally, when we're on the subject of putting images into documents, if you want to take a copy of a screen and put it somewhere, you can press the print screen key, like that, and then I can now put a copy of that straight into my document, again by pressing Control and V for paste. And there we are, we put a copy of our document inside our document. How confusing. But what we've shown there is some very common but very handy Windows keyboard shortcuts. Shift and the arrows, Control Shift and the arrows, Control C, Control V, Control X, Control A, Control Z, Control Y, and print screen. Next, I thought we'd look at some Windows keyboard shortcuts that help us with file management. And the obvious one to start with is the Windows key and E, which opens up the File Explorer. There we are, the File Explorer has come up. And if I move down with the cursor arrows, maybe select that folder there, which has got some files inside it, press Enter, there we are, we've got a folder with files in to manipulate. Maybe if I'll select, say that file there, if I want to say rename that file, I could use F2. So if I press F2, you'll see it'll actually highlight the name of the file. I could change that if I wanted to by typing in another name. I don't actually want to do that, so to come out of file renaming, same way you come out of any other process in Windows a lot of the time, I will press Escape. I might want to know the properties of a file using keyboard shortcuts and Explorer, or maybe select that file there. To get the properties of a file, you use Alt and Enter. So hold down Alt, press Enter, there we are, the file properties come up, and again if I want to get rid of those, I'll press Escape. Final keyboard shortcut I find very useful in Explorer is F3 for search, so I'll press F3, and I can now type in something to constrain what I can see. I've typed this already, as you can see, because Windows has remembered my previous search. It's showing all the files that start EC and O for my Odroid files. And I'll just delete that to get back to where we were. Final thing to point out here, everything I showed you in the previous segment works here exactly the same. So say I want to copy something, I could take that and press Control C, and then I could actually press Control V, and it would make me a copy of that file. So there we are, some Windows file management keyboard shortcuts, Windows key and E, F2, Alt Enter, and F3. Okay, I thought I'd finish off with a few keyboard shortcuts linked to controlling and shutting down applications. But before we get there, I'd be remiss in a video about Windows keyboard shortcuts not mentioning how you get help, which you do by pressing F1 in any application. So if I press F1 in Word, you'll see it'll bring up the Word help file. There it is. And ironically, in a video on Windows keyboard shortcuts, I have to shut that down using the mouse. Now, if you want to control an application in Windows using the keyboard, you can get to its menus or to its ribbon bar using F10. So if I press F10 here, you'll see it comes up and highlights things at the top. We can access things now using letters, or I can use the cursors to move across. I could go to, say, Review, press Enter, and I'm now working inside that. Again, I can move across. Maybe I'll select, I don't know, word count and Enter. Bring up the word count, there we are, how long the document is, and press Enter to get rid of that. If you're doing a lot of word processing, it's very handy not to have to go to the mouse to activate things in the program. Now, of course, at the end of whatever you're doing, you'll always want to get rid of stuff and close things down. If you want to close down the current window in Windows, you can use Alt F4. So I'll hold down Alt and press F4. Here it'll check if I want to save. I don't want to save because I don't really care about that document. I've got various windows open here. How do I close out windows? Again, Alt F4 is very handy. Hold down Alt, F4, 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 we're back to a nice clean desktop. Now, the final thing you do in Windows is of course to shut it down when you've been using it, and up until Windows 7 you could shut down very easily using the Windows key, pressing up, Enter, and then you come out of Windows. But you can't do that now in Windows 10. If I press the Windows key here, we can get to a menu, but you'll find if I move up and down with the cursors here, I'm over that side. I could actually use the Tab key to get across to the side menu there, go down, it won't take going up, and then eventually press that button and we could finally get out of Windows that way. That's a long way to get out of Windows using keyboard shortcuts. So I'll escape out of that, And I'll show you the other way to close down any version of Windows really quickly, which is to use Alt F4. I've just shown you that Alt F4 closes down the last window open. Well, the last window open here is Windows itself. So if I press Alt and F4, it will now shut down Windows. Do we want to do that? Yes, we do. This is the end of our Windows session. The keyboard shortcuts I've highlighted in this video can on occasion make your life a great deal easier. For example, a few weeks ago I was presenting at a conference and the organiser was loading up all the presentations on one laptop. And her intention was to bring up one presentation, then to end the show, and then to select the next one on the taskbar and then to show that. And when I showed her it was possible to switch cleanly between each presentation just by using Alt-Tab, she was amazed. And I've had many occasions over the past 20 plus years when people have been surprised what they can do with the keyboard rather than always resorting back to the mouse. And I hope in that context you've learned a few useful keyboard shortcuts from this video. But now that is it for this time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.